use AI to improve your perspective, not to get answers. Because if you improve your perspectives, you will naturally start asking better questions to get better answers. I think is important.
You are in for such a treat. In this very special series that I recorded with my brother, who is a principal at AWS, we got into the nitty gritty of what the people, so people in learning and development, talent management, talent acquisition, all the people, what we actually need to know about AI. And we dug deep. We took some of your questions. We had almost 20 questions from my audience that we asked him. I got to ask the really stupid questions, and he really explained it in a way that just makes sense. And so you are going to really get so much from this special series. There are 5 episodes in this series, and I encourage you to listen to them all because we need to stay ahead here. We are the critical people who are going to enable everyone else to thrive in this AI integrated workplace. So enjoy, let us know what you think. And if you submit your questions, who knows? Maybe he'll come back on again. Enjoy. Okay. All right. So before we dig into the final bit of putting ourselves as parents, I do want to ask you one final question and we'll wrap this episode up. So, where do I invest my money so I become a millionaire?
Oh man. Um, so if I knew that answer, I'm not sure I'd be sitting here now. I would be
Exactly.
doing this. I would be
That
having this
was my
conversation.
answer
Yeah.
to the person who asked that question. I'm like, I don't think my brother would be spending this time now. Yeah.
I will say I would still be delighted to be doing this podcast, but behind me would be like a beach or a yacht or something like that. Um, so where to invest your money? I think, yeah, and obviously I'm not qualified at all in any financial advice. So this is just kind of where you see things going. Um, is we spoke about packing the dishwasher, and I had a little laugh in the back of my mind because very much the powers that be want to provide us with robots that can pack the dishwasher, right? It's like that. That's very much the intention. When that will come, I don't know. 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, I'm not sure. But certainly, I think in terms of automation, in the world that we live in, I think you do need to pay attention to driverless cars. Autonomous vehicles that can just drive themselves around, because you think of Uber and you think of taxis and you think of things like that.
Mhm.
Driverless vehicles. You don't want to get into the names of the companies that produce these things at scale, but you want to keep your eye on that. We've already seen with companies like NVIDIA, where there's
Mm.
this explosion because of the GPU chips that power AI. I think there's going to be a lot in those spaces. And I think somebody asked a question as well. We can touch on it really quickly, but power. Any company that comes forward with some type of way to generate cheap power that can power this AI revolution, you probably want to buy stocks in that company, because power requirements are literally 10x, 100x what we see today,
Mhm.
and it's only going to grow. Um, in the world that's envisioned, you see it with Meta, Ray-Ban glasses, and things like that. There's going to be a little ARs built in to your everyday experience, and that's going to
Mm.
take a lot of computing power. So power, anyone who can generate cheap power, maybe buy stocks there. Anyone who can automate cars and robots and things like that, you want to think about things like that. Um, but I think on the flip side of that is to just use the technology to create ideas for yourself on how you can differentiate yourself. There's a story, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, where a really large internet company bought a startup
Mhm.
for eighty million dollars, I think is what they bought it for. The company was running for 6 months. It was started with one guy using AI to create an AI tool. So he kind of created it in his spare time at home, built this product, marketed it, all that stuff using AI, has now sold it on. So he created a company and from scratch sold it for $80 million with 6 months worth of effort, and which would not have been at all possible if he didn't use AI to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, if I could have, I would have.
I know. I was
But
like, is that guy's
if
name Gavin?
yeah, if you have the inclination and the dedication to carve out some really good use of AI, to disrupt a space that you operate in, then that's a great opportunity.
Mm,
But before we round out the questions, I saw one that was specifically targeted to people enablers, which is you, that's your audience.
yes, yes, we
Yeah,
need to
and
get into
and,
that
and
one.
just yeah, and on education, I'm personally of the thinking that AI is a massive unlock in terms of education and how you can enable people.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because it understands things, as we spoke about earlier. You can tailor learning content to individuals as opposed to teams or functions that you might be used to. And you mentioned level up. It's not a word that comes into my vocabulary very often, but the concept of leveling someone up is kind of generic in today's world.
Mhm.
Here's some training. If you learn this, we're gonna deem you at this certain level.
Mhm.
But that doesn't meet individuals anywhere near where they might be. They may have surpassed that level. They may
Mhm.
be well below that level and everything in between. So AI creates this really unique opportunity for learning, like people enablers like yourselves, to not only customize the level of depth of content that you want to provide to your learners, but you can also provide it to them in any mode that resonates with them. Some people respond differently to text, to audio, to video explainers, to visual graphics and things like that. Maybe combinations of them, maybe interactive elements within their learning. Well, generative AI can now produce all of this stuff to an individual level.
Mm,
So if you're learning about AI, we can explain a video. We can do it at a beginner's level. If I'm learning about it, it'll look completely different. The whole way it gets presented to me will be completely different, but the entry into that will be the same. It will
mhm.
be teach Candice about AI. Okay, tell me a little bit about Cans. Okay, she's progressive in the space. She uses it for her business. She's a people enabler. This is what she currently knows. This is where she wants to get. And you can produce that content dynamically tailored to the way you like to learn. If you said teach Gav AI, Gav works for the world's biggest cloud provider. He has 20 years of experience. It's going to look totally different, but the entry point is identical. So the effort is understanding what people need and being able to really effectively explain to AI what now needs to be taught to this person based on what you know. It's a great opportunity for dynamic learning. So I think you are in a very exciting space when it comes to using AI.
I am so excited, honestly, for this space and to be working with people because it is, like you say, it's such an opportunity. So let's dig into those and then we're going to wrap this up looking at what we as parents can do. So this will be like the final episode. All right. So we've just mentioned about people enablers, the opportunity that brings. And then you were mentioning things like learning can be tailored to the individual. That
Mhm.
still feels like a pipe dream. And there's a few reasons: ethics, all of that stuff. One person asked the question, like, what if my company doesn't want to use AI because they're scared of like HIPAA and that sort of stuff? Um, so I think a lot of people are like, yeah, this sounds exciting, but it's also super scary. And we don't even know where to start. So, to those people, how do we start, and I'll give you a little bit of insight and people can grab this. I did my master's in learning and development in an AI integrated workplace. So that was my master's thesis that I did. And I looked at things like marketing, because they look at our search and then they offer up the perfect ad. So why can't we do that in learning? Like, we look at the search and we offer up the perfect learning. I don't see the difference. Like, that was my argument. I don't see the ethical difference. And I did a whole section on ethics, and I dug deep into this. So why the roadblock? Why do people have this mindset of like, this is not ethical, or this is not right, or this is not even possible? It's a pipe dream. We're not there yet. So yeah, lots of questions in that one question. So
Yeah, and I think
give it
yeah,
to
I
me.
think it's all very valid. All of these concerns are valid. But I would say that kind of educating yourself around the tools and around what they do is super important. The last thing you want to do is not even dip your toe in there because
Mm,
of in my industry we call it fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So we refer to it as FUD. A lot of this
mm,
is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and it's not necessarily based on anything concrete. And where I sit in my interactions with my customers is that obviously security and ethics and things like that
mm,
are top priorities.
mm, mm,
Um, a couple of rules of thumb is that with any AI tool that's out there on the market, be that Perplexity, or we spoke about Anthropic or Gemini or OpenAI or any of them, if you're on a free plan of any of those tools, do not put in any intellectual property data, personal identifiable, anything like that. There's no guarantee of where that data going and what that data is going to be used for. So if you're using a free tool, do not do that. Use it for fun things, plan holidays and things like that, but do not put in any sensitive information. I think all of these companies have got tiers of subscriptions that you can sign up to, and I think you can go all the way to like kind of enterprise level where they give you all these guarantees that your data is not going to be used in certain ways. It's protected in certain ways. I think we look at the gradings. So if depending on the materials that you're producing for your learners, like if you're getting down into leveraging really sensitive information like HIPAA, you probably do need to pause and try and understand that better. And that's going to come down to your company's policy. And the tools that are available to you. A lot of companies that operate in tight restrictions around HIPAA, GDPR, etc. They might even have their own kind of open source large language models running on their own equipment,
mm,
so that the data that you send to them doesn't go to any cloud provider or any kind of these big LLM providers. But you'll need to dive into that within the policies of your company. Um, but certainly, I think if you're creating learning materials that does not contain very sensitive information, you really should start investigating that. Start playing with it, learn what it can and cannot do, because there's everything in between. You can create really compelling course materials from these large language models. You can create graphics that display, that enhance learning through visuals, all the way to AI generated avatars that produce video content, and slide presentations and things like that, everything in between. So just start learning what's possible, I think would be a really good entry point there. And if you're creating information, if you're creating a course for a learner, you don't necessarily need to provide any sensitive data about that learner.
mm,
You don't need to provide their name. this is targeted towards a person who has this much experience. This is the field, things like that. You can even pass that off as completely non-sensitive information to get you 90% of the way for your course materials, and you add your little bit of magic on the top. I think would be a good way to do that. And then,
Well, just on
uh,
that, so would we
yeah.
need to create a course per person? Like to put in
So
Gavin is this, Candice is that, and then would you need to create
So in a
that?
dream world, I'd say yes. And the reason for that is we spoke about agents and we spoke about things like that, is
Mhm.
that um in a not too future very like a kind of possibility ahead of us is that you'd be able to complete a very generic template about the target person, the persona that you need to upskill. And using agents, you can produce that information within a couple of seconds, a minute, that
Mm.
is extremely tailored to that person. And the reason it's interesting to me is I've kind of played around with this because I love
Mhm.
tinkering with generative AI. And yeah, we will speak about it in a minute, but how do you get kids to understand different concepts?
Mhm.
So I've played around with tools where I can say, okay, I've got, Mohammed, and I've got Jack sitting in a class. Mohammed loves cricket, loves reading science fiction novels. Harry Potter's his favorite character. Um, on the other side, I think it was Jack, I said.
Mhm. Mhm.
Jack loves Minecraft, plays it 24/7. I need both of these two students to understand the basics of generative AI. Go, produce some content.
Mm.
What you literally within a minute, what you're going to get is when Mohammed opens up the learning platform, it's going to say, "Hey, welcome, young wizard. Like this is how we're going to go about it. We're going to create a magic potion, but we need to use these different ingredients. AI would use data and it would use prompting. It's going to teach according to something that really resonates with that person. Jack, on the other hand, is going to go, right, we're designing a Minecraft world, and these are the ingredients. If we were
Mhm.
AI, we need the data, we need this. Now it's going to speak to them in a very specific way that's going to light them up, that's going to get them
Mhm.
enthusiastic about learning.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in doing this fun activity, they're going to learn it with maybe not even realizing that they're learning it, which
Mm.
is really cool. So when you extrapolate that all the way out to the professional level, it can be that you've got two people in your organization. One of them just really does not learn through reading loads of text.
Mhm.
The other one only learns through listening audio, like a podcast type thing. How do you convey the same material to both of them that they absorb it at their maximum level? Well, for one of them, you provide them with video. With the other
Mhm.
one, you provide them with the podcast, and it teaches them the same thing, but it's going to stick with each of them much better than a generic text-based type learning platform, for example.
Mm.
And these things can be created dynamically. I think
Okay.
that's the point, is it's so quick and so effective. It can be created dynamically.
Yes. Okay. So you could do groups. So not,
Hmm.
maybe not
Yeah,
now
if
that
if
it's
you don't want to go all the way
individual,
down,
because I
exactly.
don't like
Yeah,
one person supported something like 36,000 employees, one learning
yeah,
and development person. So I think for her to know every 36,000, that
yeah,
that alone will take a lot of time. Um,
100%.
yeah, so she could group them and make little personas, and so you could
Yeah,
create mini courses within one course for
yeah,
little personas. So that, yeah, that seems doable. And then it could integrate with the LMS or something like that. And so,
yeah,
I like
exactly.
podcasts, I can
Yeah.
go and search for the podcast and it's the same, you know, thing.
Or you create the podcast on the fly. I think that's also one way to think about it, is you create the podcast that talks about that thing, and you create it there and then, and the job's done. You don't go the concept of going to find materials, you just create it. It's infinitely possible.
Mm,
But yeah, certainly what you mentioned there is yeah, there is a problem with scale.
mhm,
To effectively teach, 36,000 people is remarkable. And for that, I would say that when you're designing a course, you create a course with all of the different elements that can teach people in any different which way.
mhm.
Then suddenly it just becomes about filtering. So
Mm,
if this person is a more visual learner, you just provide them all the visual elements of the course. If they aren't, you provide them with different
yes.
elements of the course.
Yeah, and maybe
So
they
you,
set
yeah,
up their own little personality. So they're like, I'm Candace. I love soccer.
yeah,
I
exactly. And
like
the
to
thing is,
listen to
yeah,
podcasts, and people can choose things and then it can filter like
yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay.
And
They're
I'm so
creating their own
nerdy.
little personas, really.
Yeah, and I'm so nerdy on the side of AI is that you can have an AI conduct that interview for you.
Mm,
The
mm,
AI can
mm,
literally
mm,
click a button and go, okay, how do you like to learn? Or even if it's not that prescriptive, you can create something that says, okay, I'll present you this and I'll present you that. Which one is more appealing to you? And you take them on a little journey.
mhm,
And at the end of it, you get a little profile that says this person clearly prefers learning through visual. They responded really well to this and that, and then you know how you can teach that person
mhm. Okay.
more
Love it.
effectively. More effectively, I think.
Yes. Okay. So this is what's coming. I think we need to understand
Yeah,
that.
when
And
I
that is one
think,
of the
yeah,
questions. What do we as, people enablers, you know,
yeah,
I say that word all the time. And so someone said it back to me. I thought that was really cool. Because that's not what we're known as, but that is how I see us. We enable the
yeah,
human side of things. So what should we be focusing on now? And then we're going to dig into the kid thing because yeah, that'll be the final. So yeah, what should we be doing right now? So obviously learning AI, but how can
yeah,
we prepare the workforce for what's coming? What's on our
yeah, because
shoulders?
yeah, that's the thing, and there's a little hint of irony in all of this is that you're looking to enable people using AI, but you really need to enable people about AI and everything that they should be doing with it as well. So you've got a big job to do, because in that movement towards AI, the change management and the people change is a huge one. It's probably more so than the technology. That's probably where the focus is in moving companies towards using AI. The technology won't be the blocker; it will be the people and the process. In that sense, I would try and imagine. Even now, like every company should be mapping out a strategy on their people. Um, so what I mean by that is in the future world, um, what do you expect your people to be doing? How do you start positioning them towards that? And what does your workforce look like? And kind of what I mean by that is that if you automate a function, um, so every company's got their bottlenecks of where they could use more people to drive more revenue, where people are overloaded with work, things like that. And then there's the areas that can be targeted really easily with AI. So I think the way this plays out is that any people that you free up, you free up their time using AI. How can those people be cycled into the higher value jobs where you have bottlenecks today? I think
Mhm.
that type of people movement needs to be very much considered, because you don't want to lose the knowledge they have of your company, which has a massive value attached to it in itself. You want those people to, so in other words, if I've got a very easily automated function that frees up 5 people, the idea for me anyway is not to fire those 5 people. It's to analyze the business and go, okay, where do we need 5 people? How do we get these 5 people to be those 5 people? I think that's kind of going to be the journey.
Yeah, you've got me creating a whole map of capability behind the scenes because to have that movement, to have that agility, that's where I think we are going to play a huge role. Like me
Massive.
and
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, and it really excites me because I'm like, this is our time. Like we are so needed right now. Like it's insane. I feel anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I wrote
There
things
is a
like
massive opportunity. Yeah.
pipeline design, org design, like agility, things like that.
Hmm.
So if you could list, the capabilities, and this will feed directly into the young generation. So if we're creating capabilities in people for success in this future world, like you said, what would those capabilities be?
Um, so if I had to, if my kids were starting to work,
Mm,
they're still a bit young for that, but if my kids were starting to work now, it would be very much. I think we've covered their need to understand AI.
mhm,
I think that's been well covered. But I think what's super important is to go layers deeper than just being a passive user of like ChatGPT, something like
mhm,
that. You really do need to start understanding and unlocking the possibilities, because that kind of passive use, it gets you somewhere, but it gets everybody to the same point that you've just got to. So it doesn't differentiate you at all.
mhm,
To differentiate, you need to plug your own gaps. You need to ask for it. Let's put it this way: use AI to improve your perspective, not to get answers.
mhm,
Because if you improve your perspectives, you will naturally start asking better questions to get better answers. I think is important. um, roles of the future. I kind of mentioned it, is that AI agents and things like that are going to come into the workforce. It's inevitable. It's already started. So I think certainly you look at that you mentioned with kind of the pipeline of an agent. So what is an agent? How do you build it? How do you maintain it? How do you monitor it, for being effective? Things like that. I think there's going to be roles across that whole, sort of genre. So if you're sitting in an individual role, it's definitely worth time now thinking about how you can automate your own stuff, the stuff that bogs you down, every day. Um, because if you're in a company and you're the first person to put your hand up and go, hey, I want to use AI to get rid of some of the loading the dishwasher, activities
mhm,
within my team, you're gonna put yourself ahead in terms of, okay, this is a person that's progressive on AI. You're going to stand out, from the rest of the crowd, basically, which is, I think,
mhm,
very important. So, be enthusiastic about it, learn it. It really can do amazing things, if you're not aware of it. Maybe you've seen all the Yeti and the Bigfoot blogs that have come out on Instagram. If you haven't, search for it. They're so funny, but like everything you're seeing is not real. It is generated with artificial
mhm,
intelligence in almost real time.
mhm.
It's mind blowing. It's literally mind blowing.
Yeah.
So have a look. Search Instagram for Bigfoot and Yeti.
Okay.
It's
Well,
funny.
it's
You'll have a
listening,
you'll
so
have a
I
good
won't
laugh.
even
Yeah.
have to search it. It's just when I open
It's
Instagram,
just
it's
gonna
going to
pop
be
up.
my next
Yeah.
story. Okay, and
It's
then that's like,
yeah.
okay, so what will differentiate the successful to the unsuccessful? And that's really what you're saying is like, get
Yes.
curious, like actually dig into the stuff. Like you need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
educate yourself. Like otherwise, you're just doing yourself a
100%.
complete disservice. And that was that other question. I work at a university. How to prepare student employees? What do the people who supervise them need to know? And that's like I saw that when studying my masters because I was like a 40-year-old studying my masters. So I was like significantly older than everyone else, and we had to vet each other's work. And I could just tell, like, there was no thought, no, like, that
Mm,
uniqueness that you talk about. I was like, you literally, like, you, did you even read this? Did you even think about
yeah.
it? And I feel sad having a kid, like, having kids. I'm like, they don't get to learn the hard way. So
Exactly.
help us with that, Gav, because I know you have the two kids and you've put that program together. Tell us about it. Tell us about your thinking, because this is a huge one for any parent.
Yeah, and I think, again, because it's moved so quickly, is that schools, universities, any education provider has not caught up and kept pace. So there's actually studies in this area, that if students use generative AI, to help support their learning, sorry, to help deliver their work, I should say, actually get lower marks than they should get, versus students who use generative AI to support the actual function of learning, their results go up dramatically. So in both cases, AI can play a part. But again, if you use it generically and passively, you're going to produce generic and passive results. That's just how it is. If you use it aggressively and like as a collaborator, someone to introduce you to things you haven't thought about, to challenge you on things you think you know, so in other words, if you've got to ask the question at the end of the day, write me a paper on X, Y, and Z. Um, First of all, put forward your thoughts on X, Y, and Z. Is this the right way of thinking or not? It's going to help you form your opinion. Um, Investigate how other people might see this. Um, you know, tell me what this might look like from a different perspective. And that's going to help inform. So, in other words, go through a series of questions and answers with AI, to get yourself to a point where by the time you ask for it to write that paper on X, Y, and Z, you've already got so much kind of nuance, different context that you can bring into it, that it's actually going to help you produce something meaningful. Um, because if we're going to think, okay, students should never use this and things like that, that's just not the right way to think about it. It's kind of like that old joke is that at school, I learned in depth about like sine and cos waves in mathematics. I've never done anything with it. It just doesn't play a part in my life, right? But I learned it, and it's kind of to say to someone in today's world, don't use Google to find things out. Do it differently. You'll be doing a disservice. You don't want to take away a tool from somebody where everybody else has access to that tool. That's not the right way to do it. It's to make better and more effective use of that tool. So we use that, the Messi and Ronaldo playing soccer thing. Practice, learn what it can and can't do, learn how it responds. I think some of the things that you mentioned, if you've got a very long running chat and it's been going for ages and there's a lot of different topics in there, you'll find it's going to start hallucinating and providing degraded answers and things like that. Because if you've got a specific topic and then you've gone off to the side of it and added some information that might not be relevant, it's all in the same context that goes to the large language model. So if you're talking about Greek mythology and you accidentally use that chat to ask about the galaxies, your answers are now suddenly going to be like, intertwined between Greek mythology and galaxies. And you've got to learn these things. You've got to know this is happening. Um, so that when you produce your outcomes for businesses and in professional sense, this is happening. I think that's the key thing. And it's no different with kids. Make them familiar with the tools. We mentioned security, ethics, things like that. The kids using these tools have to know that the answer isn't always accurate. So don't just take it at face value. I think there's a big problem there. I'll ask ChatGPT, this is what it said, so therefore it's correct. It's not necessarily. So get them in the habit of fact checking what comes back. Um, Challenging biases. You can get very biased opinions coming back. We spoke about kind of sycophancy. Oh, you are great. You rock. You rule the world. Well, you don't. So you need to understand. Um, you know, you need to understand that
Yeah.
it's going to tell you things that you need to put through a filter. About the ethics of things as well. Is that plagiarism is not, it's not okay. So if you're producing a paper, definitely go through the legwork to use it as a learning companion, not a learning replacement, because you're going to experience brain rot. You're not going to be as effective a thinker. Use it to develop your critical thinking. Use it to give yourself the skills that you need to recognize when it's not doing a good job. I think that might be the ultimate takeaway, is
Mm,
that a lot of stuff is going to be produced by AI. I think the most successful people using it will know when what it's produced is good enough or not good,
mhm.
and you can make decisions based on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and even unique. Um,
Yes, and
yes, I was
unique. Yeah,
thinking,
and
I wrote down here friends versus AI because the AI is so agreeable. So when you have a fight with your friend, you're going to go to AI or think it's just easier. And then I did write down so skills like agility, critical thinking, problem solving, like just
yeah,
all of those higher level thinking skills. Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
executive functioning, just like
Yes.
prompting and yes, okay. So knowing the actual tools and then that, okay. So quickly tell us about what you've created for kids because I literally want to fly my son to your house and just live with you for like however many weeks. So yes, tell us what you've created for kids.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because conversations exactly like this one is what gave me the impetus to do it, and obviously that I've got two kids, two girls, 8 and 10, and I look forward into the future for them, and realize that it's inevitable they have to know AI, but they not just have access to it, but actually know it. So I came across this idea that to teach kids how to use AI. So I've created the Next Gen Cloud Academy. It's an academy that I run in person here in Toronto. So I don't know if your audience have got some good air miles, they can come join us.
I have some, actually, most of my members are from Canada, like
Oh wow, okay.
70% of my members in my program. So,
Oh wow,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Hey,
we'll get to the US soon. We'll break.
so yeah, so it's an academy. It's run here in Toronto. It's in-person learning for kids aged 10 to 15, to take them on that journey, of generative AI. Um, Again, not just using ChatGPT, things like that, because the future lies far beyond using UIs.
Mm,
UIs are where we are now, and kind of table stakes skills, I would say, in a lot of
what's
cases.
UI
Um,
stand for?
a user interface. So,
Oh,
sorry,
okay. Okay. Yes.
so by
Thank
that I
you.
mean like
Right.
ChatGPT and
Mhm,
things like
mhm,
that.
yeah.
Those are really good kind of personal productivity tools for now, but certainly it's going to go levels deeper than that. It's fairly soon, I would imagine. So it's for them to understand all the questions that you asked. What is machine learning? What is AI? How does it work? Prompting and hallucinations and ethics, and so it's to give them that grounding, but then all importantly, it's to support learning, not from just I want to produce something. How do I produce something unique and differentiated? What do I have to do with this AI to set me up for success? That's going to effectively make me stand out from every other person who's got ChatGPT on their phone. I'm running this academy. It's got all these different aspects. I'm going to teach the fundamentals. I'm going to teach kids how to create videos and music and podcasts that we spoke about, how to conduct effective deep research for school to support their learning and things like that. Developer tools like how they can create their own games, which is super fun. A really interesting area is coding. That's a whole different podcast. And then agents. What are agents? How can you build quick little agents to do simple, fun things, but in so doing, learning uh, what I think is going to be a vital skill of identifying where an agent will be useful, and then how to go about bringing it to life.
Mm, I think you need to up that age limit to like at least 42.
Um, it's quite interesting because every parent that I speak to and I say to them, "Hey, this is the idea," and they're like, "You're not going to do this for adults? Like, why just for the kids?" Yeah. So it might be a follow on. Yeah.
Yes, I think
This,
so.
yeah. This academy, and we spoke about that learning platform, and that's
Mhm,
why I built it, is in support of this learning academy, because part of it, I'm doing presentations to the children to teach them the stuff that we spoke about today, or most of it, or all of it.
mhm,
But there's lab work where they get their hands on the keyboard and they learn how to use AI. And I'm building those out very much with that perspective. If someone's super interested in Minecraft, it's going to give them labs and things like that that are specific to Minecraft. If they love soccer, it's going to do it for soccer, baseball, whatever. So what I'm trying to tap into is to teach kids based on their own personal interests.
Mm.
So that's where that whole topic came from, and that's where the enthusiasm for that came from.
Yes. And that's where I said, oh, so it's you that's going to take our jobs away.
Not at
I
all, not
found
at
the
all.
culprit, everyone. I found the culprit. No, but in all
Yeah,
seriousness, like that sort of part of our job should be taken away. And we need to be thinking so much deeper in terms of getting people ready for this world that we're going to live in.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Is
yeah,
is that
like
is
our
that
job
kind is
is
that kind of
becoming
the
so much more like
oh
deeper,
yes,
like
yeah,
more critical, but yeah, just so much deeper. All right, so
yeah,
we
and
have a final question we ask because I know you need to run to the Cheesecake Factory, so I know we've gone over. I could literally talk to you all day, like seriously. So thank you so much, Gab. This has been super
it's been
cool.
great. Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance.
Yeah. So we have a final question. And obviously, this podcast took a detour. This is not a typical podcast. So, usually, we go through people's life stories, their career journey. We started with yours. We did talk a little bit about that, your moving, all of that stuff. So, what we like to ask, because I think we give our younger selves a really hard time. And so, if you could go back in time and thank your younger you, and it doesn't matter what age, 14, 20, whatever, if you could thank your younger you, what would you thank yourself for doing then that sort of set you on this path or taught you a good lesson or something like that? What would you thank your
Wow,
young
that is a
Gav?
tremendous question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
um,
it.
yeah. This this
I
is
love
this
the
is an
answers. I
epic
need to do a
question.
compilation of like the answers, I think, because that's, yeah, it's been awesome.
It's it's kind of a great question because it kind of it gets your mind spinning in so many different areas because life has this like really funny way of setting its course without you even realizing that that's what's happened. Because it reminds me when I was an intern at IBM, they took me around the whole business. They said, "Oh, here's this department, that department. This is what these guys do. This is what these guys do." And then at the end of the day, they said, "Okay, where do you want to go?" And I was like, "Sorry." They're like, "Well, which of those departments do you want to work in?" I mean, I didn't even realize that, that I was supposed to be evaluating them. I thought it was like kind of an introduction tour. So I literally chose like one of the last ones. I said, "Oh, that one looked pretty cool." And that set my whole life on the course that it was, right? That moment, I like
Mm.
you can you
Whoa.
can't yeah, you can't even plan for that, right? That
Mm.
set me into the RT department that has ultimately laid out my entire career, my whole life. Um, but I think I'll lean on a story that we spoke about earlier, and that's just I would thank my younger self just for listening to good advice when it's presented. And I know as a youngster, you know everything, so good advice is hard to come by when you know everything, um, right? Um, but um, like that conversation that I had with our dad, and he kind of said, "Look, great course. Like I know you're into computers, but that's not going to give you like a certificate that you can stand behind." I think that was probably a pivotal moment in my life. And so thanks, Dad, for a very good conversation. But I would thank myself for listening. Maybe I didn't always listen, but I listened that time. And yeah, I think it's the skill is to know, okay, this time is serious, and maybe others aren't.
Mm.
But yeah, I would go back and shake young Gav's hand just for listening and going to do the thing that was that really good advice from our dad.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. And usually we don't do this, but any final things? Because I said we'll wrap up saying, is there anything I haven't asked you? Is there anything you want to tell us as learning and development, talent enablement people that we should have our, I don't know. I always think of a Ridgeback with their hackles up, like that little, like a Ridgeback dog with the Like, should we, like, what should we be aware of? I don't know why I always have that image in my mind when I'm like, what should we know?
I think we've covered a lot of it, but I would just kind of reinforce the fact that I think you operate in a really unique space. The irony can't be lost on the group that you yourselves are learning AI, how to use AI to be more effective in your roles, to teach AI. Like that's kind of how this is going to evolve. I think you guys find yourselves in a really interesting position because the AI education is a massive need for it, and you can use AI to create the education that you can use to teach AI. Kind of a nice mechanism, or like symmetries forming there.
Mm-hmm.
But in case it hasn't been kind of clear through our conversation, is that AI is a great opportunity. It really is. Don't shy away from it. Don't be nervous about it. It's very effective at kind of accelerating learning. I think to a point that we've never seen before. Anybody anywhere now can learn something to a very deep and impressive level. Really, I think anyway, much quicker than you could have before. So embrace the opportunity. Like it's really exciting. If I was deeply ingrained in your space, I'd be bouncing off the walls with excitement,
Mm-hmm.
because this tool is going to enable you not only to learn yourselves, but to teach people at scale, and to tailor individual content to exactly what people need, so that whatever you're teaching sticks with people in different ways. A great opportunity. AI is there to help you
Mm-hmm.
embrace it, learn what it can do, and most importantly, what it can't do, and then just use it to propel yourselves forward.
Mm. Love that. That is a brilliant way to end. So thank you, Gav.
Thank you. I loved it. And we'll chat again. We'll WhatsApp later.
Yes. Watch out for those voice notes.
Thank you. Thanks, Cans. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
I am learning so much from these episodes. I hope you are too. Make sure you catch all 5 of them, because us, the people who support people in organizations, we need to stay ahead.